been on a journey most of my life practicing and discovering what it looks like for established organizations to behave more like startups. I've lived this tension within my career, I've researched it, I've connected with and learned from top thought leaders, and I co-founded a company in this space. And it's an area I wake up every day hungry to learn more about and hungry to keep getting clearer. And although it's an emerging space, there are a few things that have become clear to me over the past few years. One is we're living in a world of constant flux and constant change. Two, most of our organizations and leaders, for the most part, aren't prepared to deal with that change. And three, some organizations and leaders are, and they're behaving in more entrepreneurial ways. Let's dive in to talk about some of the forces that are at play in the world driving change, and then talk about some of the entrepreneurial behaviors that established organizations can adopt to drive results. We're living in a world of constant flux and constant change. Our needs as consumers are changing, and the possibilities to meet them are changing as well. And most established businesses or organizations have been built when they deliver a product, service, or experience that fits nicely in the overlap of needs and possibilities. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, that sweet spot is now a moving target. Revolutionary technologies like 3D printing and scanning have the potential to rewrite the rules of entire industries and supply chains. Another example is pervasive technologies like apps, social networks, tablets, and mobile devices have been increasingly converging traditional brick and mortar with digital and teaching consumers that instant access and instant gratification are clearly the new norms. And another example is consumers desire more authentic, transparent interactions, and they want companies and brands to stand for something beyond just top-line growth and profits. And in the face of these changes, most of the organizations that we work in have been built to scale on a well-tested and proven model. And for many of us, we've spent our entire careers working within that model, tweaking it and perfecting it, rather than adapting it. We simply don't know how to change our models, and even worse, we've been taught that other things are more important. We've been taught to value process much more importantly than principles. We react to customer needs versus anticipating them and then practically planning and investing to meet their needs. We manage risk much too tightly, and we leverage new technology too quickly, often overlooking the critical step of deeply understanding our customers' needs and the problems that we're trying to solve for them. Despite these challenges, I'm inspired and I have hope as I see forward-looking leaders and organizations starting to recognize that entrepreneurs have opportunistically embraced the changing world around us, and they've broken past paradigms, and they're starting to adopt the behaviors of entrepreneurs in their own organizations. I'd like to share 5 behaviors that successful entrepreneurs practice and talk about how they can come to life in even the most well-established organization. The first behavior I'd like to highlight is that entrepreneurs set a vision and act. I want you to think of a successful entrepreneur you know. Chances are he or she thinks and acts and behaves differently than other leaders you've come across in your career. Most entrepreneurial leaders that I know, they focus tenaciously on solving a problem or a need that's really important to them, and they're tenacious in their pursuit of it. And they aren't defined by what's been done before. Rather, they take pride in creating new models and solving big problems. And importantly, they create environments that welcome, enable, and empower others to join them in their quest for solutions. In 2010, leaders at the fashion retailer Nordstrom recognized the need to invest to continue to stay relevant to shoppers across emerging digital channels as well as in their traditional brick and mortar stores. So they created an innovation committee consisting of executives from across the organization with a vision and budget to invest in evolutionary and revolutionary innovation projects. And part of this vision was the creation of the Nordstrom Innovation Lab. And the lab is essentially a streamlined startup within the Fortune 500 company that leverages a diversified talent base of researchers, designers, and coders, and utilizes tools similar to that of a lean startup. And they're tasked with the mission from leaders in the core business to be fast and fascinating as they're developing new products and services for Nordstrom's customers. And they've been fully empowered to do so from leadership. So hear this. Entrepreneurial leadership in an established organization starts with a forward-looking leader setting a vision and putting the enablers in place to make it happen. It doesn't happen any other way. The next behavior I'd like to highlight is that successful entrepreneurs build their ideas in garages. The garage is an important and inspiring metaphor as it reminds us of Steve Jobs and Walt Disney and other resource-constrained entrepreneurs who built their companies in garages. And the garage is also a place where entrepreneurs go to experiment and build their ideas, as well as to get away from rules and processes. And just as it's out of necessity for startups, established organizations are starting to leverage garages to build new ideas and new models. Companies that are taking this kind of behavior on are creating separate physical workspaces for their innovation teams. Places like the Nike Kitchen in Portland or Leatherman's free-range PDX group. And in addition to having separate physical workspace, these groups have access to resources and assets from the core business, as well as permission from leadership to push into new models and revenue streams. And although they have the freedom and breathing room to create the future of their organizations, there's enough connection back to the core business to drive relevancy for the products and services they're creating. Going back to the Nordstrom Innovation Lab, the lab started with 3 people and a piece of paper taped to a conference room door, and because of their early success, has grown into the spacious open field floor where 17 diverse lab members come together to experiment and iterate and to create customer-focused problems and solutions. So this second behavior that established organizations should adopt is to build their new ideas and new models in garages. The next behavior I'd like to highlight is that successful entrepreneurs focus on customer needs. And this is often the one behavior that separates successful entrepreneurs from those that fail to monetize their ideas and really struggle. Successful entrepreneurs that I know focus their ideas on known customer problems, even as their ideas change and evolve, and they stay open to new possibilities along the way. Things like new technologies, new business model tweaks, new processes that they could take, new partnerships, et cetera. And when they're not in their garages building their ideas, you can find them in coffee shops building their networks and getting feedback on their ideas, as well as at trade shows learning about new technologies and delivery systems or other companies they can partner with. They listen more than they talk, and they focus tenaciously on connecting customer needs to possibilities. At the Nordstrom Innovation Lab, they actually developed some of their products and services on the sales floor with real customers. And their first big innovation was this iPad app that allowed shoppers to try on and compare sunglasses. And it was built leveraging a flash mob of their team members, researchers, designers, and coders, converging on the sales floor of their flagship store in Seattle. And they iterated from paper prototypes all the way through to a fully functioning app over a 5-day period, leveraging real customer input and sales staff input along the way. And the end result was a highly relevant, highly interactive app that greatly enhanced the sunglass buying experience. So this third behavior that established organizations should adopt is to focus on customer needs and then to stay open to possibilities to meet them. The next behavior I'd like to highlight is that successful entrepreneurs create new business models. Stanford professor and entrepreneurship expert Steve Blank says that a startup is essentially a temporary organization in search of a scalable, repeatable business model. Cincinnati entrepreneur Bill Cunningham recognized an opportunity to leverage excess shipping capacity on semi-trucks, as well as the need for lower volume, lower cost shipping options for smaller organizations. And he created a new business model in his organization, One More Pallet. Entrepreneur Robin Chase recognized the need for shorter-term car rentals, as well as recognized that the number of car owners in large cities rarely drove their cars. So she created the model for Zipcar. You can fly into Boston or New York or San Francisco and rent a car for a few hours for a few bucks and return it. And creating a new business model in an established organization is an exceptionally difficult task given the heavy gravity of the core business model. I'd like to share an example of a company that was able to do that successfully. Bonobos, an online men's retailer known for a high standard of catering to men's clothing needs, recognized that its online model was just one way it could reach its customers. So by partnering with Nordstrom, it created a new model and came up with this guide shop concept, which is essentially showrooms for guys' clothing. Guys go online and set up an appointment and then come into the guide shop, and they try on styles and sizes of clothes they like to get the sizes right and that sort of thing. In a no cash register, no pressure environment. They can't buy anything in the store. But what's remarkable about these guide shops is they carry 5 times the revenue per square foot of a traditional retailer like Macy's, as well as Nordstrom's traditional stores. And they carry a 90% conversion rate for guys that shop online after visiting the store. So creating new business models is a critical skill that established organizations can learn from entrepreneurs. And the last behavior I'd like to highlight is that successful entrepreneurs always seem to be in what I'll call permanent beta. When entrepreneurs are building a new product or a new service, they recognize that they're not going to get it right the first time, and they recognize that they don't have all the resources in the world. So when they're trying something and it's not working, they pivot quickly and they try something new. And they collect customer feedback along the way, and they keep pivoting and tweaking until they get it right. And they recognize that embedded within this behavior is that failure is just an opportunity to learn. They take pride in it, and they recognize that it's a necessary means to the end that they're trying to get to. When they were developing the sunglasses app that we talked about earlier, the Nordstrom Innovation Lab team members demonstrated this behavior really well. Over the course of their 5-day development cycle, they created prototypes, they tested them with customers and collected feedback. And they kept pivoting and tweaking until they got the solution right. Updates that you receive for apps on your iPhone are also a great example. Next time you see one, click on it, and you'll see bugs that have been fixed or new features that have been added as developers and companies continue to make the app updated and relevant. Moving forward with these 5 behaviors of setting a vision and acting, building ideas in garages, focusing on customer needs, creating new business models, and leveraging permanent beta, it's critical that we start realizing that entrepreneurship isn't just for startups.